Good morning. I'm about to go and start my writing day, my Friday writing day, and I thought I would just share with you a couple of things that have happened over the course of this week, a couple of realizations that I've had about this book that I'm writing, which are really making me have to go back and rethink everything that I have written so far. And this is something that I've mentored many writers through. They work on a manuscript for a very long time, and then they reach a certain point and they have it's usually a realization about the emotional truth of the story that they're writing. And it renders most of what they've already written unusable. And everybody feels absolutely devastated when this happens, because you're just like, I've just climbed this mountain. I just cannot do this again. I cannot do it in the light of what I now know and what I now realize. I know what this feels like. I have to say, it hasn't quite ever come to me this late in the game, but there are a couple of reasons for that. Number one is that this book has already been commissioned. It is the third in a sequel, in a series. And so there are expectations about this book that are not mine. They are the expectations of the publisher. They are the expectations of the success of two previous books and what made those books a success. And none of us really actually knows what made those books a success. So it's really more trying to work out why they sort of hit a nerve, and then trying to replicate that. And I always think that that's not I don't really think that's a great way to write anything, is to try and write it according to a recipe or a formula, or to something that you think is going to make the book successful. But I do already have a kind of an audience that has been following this trajectory, and so there's a way in which I have a kind of an allegiance to the readers of the two previous books, and that means that I've got to somehow, and I always think you should know your target market and who your audience is, and you should always be speaking to that audience. So this week I kind of had a realization that the premise of this story that I've been writing, which really is premised in great sadness and tragedy, where I've written already like 40,000 words, premised on the idea that the teenage daughter's boyfriend sadly has committed suicide, and the mother is now desperately trying to recover her daughter, haul her back into life. And the publisher is concerned that this is, it's not really going to set us up for the kind of tone and the tone that readers have expected from the last two books, and there's too much grief up front. We can get to grief later, but it's kind of, the premise is really too sad, and it's kind of hard for me to adopt, to be honest, the same style and tone that I've used in the previous books, which is extremely light-hearted and joyous and celebratory, which of course we'll have to get to. So this week I realized that maybe I can't kill the boyfriend off. I've got to keep him around, but he's going to be an asshole, right? He's got to be an asshole, and he's got to be manipulative, and the daughter has got to be wanting to break up with him, or at least trying to break up with him, but he's extremely emotionally manipulative. And in addition to sort of reworking the whole premise of the story, so that it doesn't include a daughter, this young woman, this 19-year-old girl who's gone through so much grief, she's more, the whole emotional texture of the daughter is now different. She's kind of caught up in this boyfriend who is driving her insane. And she knows, she's a feminist, this young woman, she's a feminist. She knows she's got to get out of it, but she kind of is caught up in this whole thing. And she certainly doesn't want her mother's advice, of course, and doesn't want to talk to her mother about it at all, because she knows what she has to do. And her mother has obviously seen that this boyfriend was bad for her from the beginning. So there's the whole kind of I told you so dynamic that I've got to try and work out and navigate. But the other thing about this book is that the emotional truth about where I am with my daughter and the emotional truth is different from where this woman is with her daughter. And I have traversed these tricky terrains with my daughter, make no mistake. It's just not true to where I am right now. And I know it's obviously, we can always write about places we've been to emotionally. It's really good to be able to really, when you're writing about a particular emotion, to re-feel it, to be re-engaged in the emotional drama, the emotional struggle that you have been through, because you're always writing from that feeling place. You're always writing from the emotional place. So I really, right now, I've gone through the whole manuscript and I'm just looking at all of it and I'm thinking, I don't know how usable any of this is, because, you change one emotional dynamic, that is the setup at the beginning. It's exactly how you then need to structure the rest of it. All the emotional dynamics, all the dialogue, all the conversations, everything that flows from there, the decisions every character is going to make, is going, they all flow from, the setup, where each character is emotionally. So what I think I'm going to start off with today, before I even go look at any of the chapters and discard a whole lot of them, is I'm going to go and write about what the emotional truth of the story is and really try and connect in with the emotional truth and to work out what vision of life I want the story to be in service to. What it is that I'm saying about the human condition, what it is I'm saying about mothers and daughters and women's friendships. I've done a lot of this writing already, but I feel like today that's got to be the starting place for this conversation that I'm having with myself around this book. At the same time, trying to please an existing audience, a publisher who's got certain expectations. The last two books were a lot about food and the food that women prepare and eat together and the joy that women get in spending time this way together. So I'm not, I used to be really into food, like super, super, super into food. Like used to be a really great cook and I used to care a lot about food, and I care not that much about food anymore. And so that's the emotional truth of the story, is that, if I don't have to cook and if I can just be served something, I'm really, really happy. I don't want to be engaged with food. So, and I'm definitely not pretentious about food. I think I used to be a lot more, the whole wanting to see where food was sourced and all of this kind of stuff. Honestly, at this point in my life, it's not a big concern for me. So maybe I need to set up a little bit of tension between the two friends, where the one friend is, very into food and the other one, just is like, whatever's on the menu, whatever's easiest, So all of these things are rattling around in my head. It's sort of hurting my head because now, this is what stops us from going back into the writing. It's like, I don't know how to enter. I don't know which door to start through. I don't know where to go. Should I scrap it all, start again? Should I just start with the first chapter? I'm feeling that feeling that I so often mentor people through, of being completely overwhelmed by this structure I've created that I don't know if it's viable and I don't know if I can pursue. And of course I am super attached to some of the writing because some of the writing's really, really, really good. There are some scenes that are so good, so I'm having to take those out and put them in another folder and hope someday I'll get to them and put them in another book. And all the things that I always tell people to do, I'm now having to listen to my own advice, and I know how hard this is, and I'm really feeling the pain of it today. So for anybody who thinks that this is just like a really romantic thing to do, to go and write a book, and that it's easy and I know what I'm doing and I sit down and out it comes, and and I just sit and put words on the page until the book is finished. Here it is. This is the reality. Today is not a fun day to be a writer and to have a deadline looming and to feel all this expectation on my shoulders, and also to know that I want to produce something that is a deep and emotional ride for the reader, but is also, incredibly pleasurable and beautifully written and richly conceived and all the things that we want in a book. Had some other realizations too, just about the setting of it as well. Like I was thinking that it would be set just before Trump is elected, and I am starting to think it's going to be now after Trump is elected, when everybody is feeling really very, very vulnerable, and possibly even just as the whole Me Too movement has which was sort of late in 2017, October 2017, as opposed to late in 2016. So all of these things are rattling me up, and it affects the whole structure that I've created so far. That's my problem to deal with today, and I suppose in the scheme of problems that one has to deal with in the world, this is a super fantastic and very privileged problem for me to be grappling with. So I'm off to go and work some stuff out, and I hope you have a great writing day. Bye.